Guys, we have a couple great matches happening on the side. One of them, of course, is Strifeco versus Killing All Day. We have Nostam versus yoitsflo. That's probably going to be the one we focus on. We also have Napoleon up against Lucas, and then there's a couple of other people like Hot Meowth playing against Frozen. There's just a lot of crazy good matches right now, Brian.
Yeah, and there's lots of strong players, both obviously remaining in the tournament and clearly facing off against each other. So lots of fireworks going on. But we will be getting into this battle between Nostam and yoitsflo. These two players have practiced together before, and I'm not entirely certain if they practiced together for this event, but they have very similar lineups.
Yeah, I think it's a little unfortunate that these guys all are in the same practice group and they happen to run into each other. They're even close to each other just as friends. So a little bit of a battle between teammates here. They have pretty much the exact same lineup across the board. Playing that very aggressive strategy with Aggro Rogue, with Tempo Mage, the Pirate Warrior, and the Aggro Shaman. So going to game number one here, Rogue versus the Mage. I believe it's Shaman banned on both sides. And this is a matchup that I actually haven't played too much of. You said you played a lot of games with it.
I did play quite a bit of Aggro Rogue. I have not played that much against Tempo Mage. So this is one of those matchups that kind of has risen up in the past week or so in popularity because of the success of Green Sheep last week at the Europe playoffs, playing both of these decks. And here, this game, kind of trading of resources here in the early turns. A Flame Waker for Nostam does not quite take out the Tomb Pillager, so may require some extra damage in the next turn. But yoitsflo does thankfully have the Eviscerate or SI Shadow Step to take this out.
Yeah, he had multiple ways to deal with it. Yeah, he has multiple ways to deal with it. I think this is the most efficient because Tempo Mage is such easy ways to clear off a lot of one-health minions. Arcane Missiles, Flame Wakers, Arcane Blast. So I think having good value off of that's a good thing. But it feels like he's already running out of damage, so to speak. It's just, you don't have that much going on here. So yoitsflo is going to need a lot of help from the top of his deck if he's going to try to close out this game because he's got a lot of low value stuff.
Yeah, the Rogue deck is one that can have kind of air in its hand. Shadow Step, unless you draw the right cards to use with Shadow Step, can be very low impact. Similarly, against a Mage in particular, cards like Deckhand can rarely get in for more than their initial power's worth of damage. So yoitsflo is going to need to navigate this very carefully to try to maximize how much damage he's able to get out of each card.
All right, so don't sleep on the Rogue. It can add up the damage really quick because of Shadow Step. Simple as picking up Leroy Jenkins. We've seen the power that's been happening with that. Zalay, of course, was in a previous series showcasing that. So Nostam's hand a little bit slow. As part of the problems with playing Tempo Mage is sometimes you can just draw like a little bit more late game oriented and be very passive and defensive. Barnes can produce some pretty good stuff though. Looking for maybe the second Flame Waker.
And, ooh, it is Ragnaros.
Or Ragnaros, that works too.
The Arcane Blast plus the Arcane Missiles. This is a pretty big missile shot, because if you can take out both minions, it's a really tough spot for from yoitsflo to come back from. Ooh, but that actually leaves a completely protected Horse Rider here. So yoitsflo, he could potentially suit this up and get some damage into the face with the Cold Blood. He can even clear off the entire board as well. He can use the coin or coin Cold Blood, eviscerate your Barnes, and then use his weapon to take out the Ragnaros. So he ends up having a 6/1 Divine Shielded minion in play, which can potentially be difficult for Nostam to remove. We actually see that Nostam has no direct removal in his hand, so that could potentially get in even another hit.
Yeah, I actually like that play. Being able to maximize that Argent Horse Rider multiple turns over is going to be really useful. They've already used Arcane Missiles, they've already used the Flame Waker, so it feels like unlikely that your opponent can deal with it really easily. Nostam will have to draw removal from the top of the deck.
Yeah, he does have the hero power to do 1 damage, so any spell that does a single damage can remove this, but if yoitsflo's in a situation, his hand is Shadow Step. His hand is really weak. He needs to just hope that Nostam does not have removal. That's a Fireball, but that requires him to spend his entire turn removing this. Fireball into the Divine Shield, ping it off. So now yoitsflo, if he can pick up Leroy Jenkins, he could potentially win the game over the next 2 turns. That is exactly Leroy Jenkins.
Nice call, dude. Yeah, like 13 health. So Shadow Step with Leroy is 13 damage with the dagger. So he's got lethal set up.
Well, if Nostam draws a freeze effect, he can potentially freeze the face, but he does not find it. And I mean, he can't play around the possibility of Leroy Jenkins here.
Mirror image though.
Yep, if you can find a mirror image, there is.
Oh, it doesn't look like it.
No mirror image, and yeah, yoitsflo from the Barns into Ragnaros is able to take the game with double Leroy. We've seen Leroy Shadow Step getting a lot of games done in this tournament so far. What year is it? Is
it's
it
retro,
2014?
Throwback. I know. Only 2014 kids will understand this. So Leroy getting the damage in and being able to showcase why the Aggro Rogue is definitely one deck to be feared and why it's even more popular than Miracle Rogue this weekend. Yeah, we saw Miracle Rogue as a very popular deck at the Europe playoffs, but has been largely supplanted by the Aggro Rogue, which has much better matchups in a lot of key matchups. It's much better against the Pirate Warrior because it's able to actually race as well. And in particular, the Argent Horse Rider in that matchup against the Warrior decks is really crucial. Just give you a minion that can either trade in or push damage to your face that's difficult for them to remove. Yeah, you know, being able to attach Cold Blood to a Divine Shield minion has actually been in the very beginning of Hearthstone. It's the beta, but we haven't actually seen that type of deck really become viable for a few years now. Yep. So it's interesting to see it come back, a little bit of that old decks coming out here, and it's because the specific way the metagame has grown. It doesn't necessarily mean Aggro Rogue is here to stay. It could just be this pocket of meta for tournaments specifically.
Yeah, a big part of it is, of course, the power of Small 10 Buccaneer, which is going to be changed in the patch at the end of the month. So it'll be interesting to see if the Aggro Rogue adapts to that, because it's not really reliant in the same way as some other decks on the resilience of the Buccaneer, like the control mid-range style decks that just happen to use Buccaneer alongside weapons like the mid-range Shaman decks. But we are into the next game. It will be the Warrior Mirror match. I believe these two players have identical Warrior decks?
Yes. I believe they teched it specifically even for the Mirror by having Bash in their deck lists right now. So it's gonna be interesting to see who gets the edge here. It could also just end up being pretty even. Although I'm looking at the opening hands here, and I see Nostam does have Fiery War Axe and a way to capitalize onto it. So that's a really good start here for Nostam.
Yeah, the War Axe allows just a dominance of the early board and makes it difficult for the opponent to get in. Basically, the Buccaneer into War Axe is one of the strongest things that you can start with. But yoitsflo does have the N'Zoth's First Mate plus deck hand, which will allow him to take out the opposing Buccaneer and at least slow the bleeding.
All right, so Nostam has the Dread Corsair this turn. Now, is there any... What about saving the South Sea deckhand so you can guarantee the upgrade the following turn?
I think that's what he will do. I think that we'll see Nostam play the Corsair and Armor Up. The Armor Up is actually quite powerful in the sort of burn phase of the game. There's two kind of phases to the Pirate Warrior matchup. It's actually he's going to go ahead and fire it off here and just trade. Interesting.
Okay. So holding on to the Dread Corsair.
He's going to hold on the Dread Corsair. He wants to get that off the board. Forces opponent, and either one of these directions. This one plays around the Bloodsail Cultist from his opponent. So if yoitsflo had a Bloodsail Cultist, it would not be able to upgrade his Rusty Hook. And he does still get the Armor Up in, which, as I was getting into before, can help you in those burn phases of the game where things like Leroy Jenkins or Mortal Strike, though these two decks actually don't have Mortal Strike. They're playing the Bash instead.
You think yoitsflo could also put his opponent on potentially this play here, that the Bloodsail Cultist and the Dread Corsair? He did hover over a card to the left for a long time and then chose not to play and chose South Sea. So it feels like this is one of those scenarios where maybe you can do some hand reading and use that to your advantage.
Yeah, it's definitely something that players at this level need to be aware of. When you make a play, you almost make a play, it gives information to your opponent that you have a different play you could have made, which they can kind of parse out what are the possible options that could be. Right?
But I guess if they do have it, that just puts you in a really bad spot, because then if you don't develop anything on the board, then you give them free development on the turn and they keep a weapon charge.
But speaking of bad spots, that's what yoitsflo is in right now, as Nostam finds a Frothing Berserker and a second one in hand. Now has a pretty powerful board. yoitsflo can take it out with this Arcanite Reaper, but there's still just repeat damage on the other side, and Nostam. Well, actually, Nostam not really able to deploy the frothing for fear of the Kor'kron Elite from yoitsflo. But yeah, he's actually just going to drop down both minions. This will be an opportunity for yoitsflo to get a value trade with the Kor'kron, as well as remove something with his Arcanite Reaper. Ooh. Though he is running relatively low on life, he is winning the attrition battle at the moment because he has several cards in hand, and he's going to be removing most of what Nostam has in play.
Yeah, this Kor'kron Elite is massive.
Yeah,
the fact that you just can't ping off that Kor'kron Elite with any hero power that's useful. If Nostam picks up Finley, then maybe he's in business, but even then, it looks like that Arcanite Reaper would be able to really command a lot of the board for the next few turns here for yoitsflo.
Yeah, Reaper is often kind of like a Pyroblast, delayed Pyroblast from the Pirate Warrior deck, just swinging over 2 turns. But in minion-based matchups, it's often just efficient removal, and that's what Nostam's going to be using it as here, getting 2 minion kills with this Reaper, and just leaving him as the only player with any minions. And we've seen this before. We've seen one player get kind of far ahead and then have the Leroy Jenkins in their hand. If Nostam can find, say, a N'Zoth's First Mate, that would be one of the best things he could pick up. That or Sir Finley to get a hero power that allows him to interact, because then he can actually use the Leroy as a threat without the whelps just trading back into it.
Well, looks like he's in a position where he can take the board pretty commandingly with the Kor'kron Elite. I guess the debate is, do you swing with this weapon at all? And if so, are you developing the pirate behind it? It's a lot of questions that are going through his mind right now.
Yeah, I think we do see yoitsflo just kind of sit back, and there's a couple reasons for this. One is the fact that he can just use this Arcanite Reaper to protect his board. We actually see Nostam using a Heroic Strike just to clear off the minion. And now he's like, okay, I'm going to play a minion and just try and get repeat damage in. This is kind of the attrition phase of the Pirate Warrior game, where each player is just trying to stick something. There's another reason not to attack with that Arcanite Reaper, which is Upgrade, which can give yoitsflo yet another swing.
He just got damage, though. He doesn't have any board to get that recursive damage in. So I don't think I think he's also too far away to just try to kill his opponent. Right. So maybe you just have to still play the removal game and bank on the Warrior hero power.
And this is also an interesting spot because yoitsflo could choose to just upgrade the Reaper. Then he has 1 big swing remaining. His other play could be attack the Kor'kron, play the N'Zoth's First Mate, then upgrade the Rusty Hook. So if your opponent has small things, you have more small swings, which ends up being better against certain draws, but ends up giving you, it also ends up giving you more damage over time because you end up with a 2/4 weapon, which is doing a total 8 damage if you can actually get all the swings rather than just 1 6-point swing.
Nostam draws nothing really here of substance. He gets a Heroic Strike, and as a result, is just going to have to bide his time so he can get more damage. He's 4 points off currently, so if he's able to assemble a little bit more, maybe he can set up a 2-turn lethal.
And for yoitsflo here, he isn't getting the damage from the N'Zoth's First Mate, which is now kind of stranded in his hand because he chose to upgrade the Arcanite Reaper. And he can't really afford to use his face for removal against too many more mid-sized minions. So he's kind of in an awkward spot as well, considering what could Nostam have in his hand. One card, obviously, Leroy Jenkins or a Heroic Strike type effect make a lot of sense because Nostam could be trying to just sit back and wait with Burst. He could also just have a minion, be waiting for a second minion so he could stick 2 things in 1 turn because you can only remove once with that weapon.
All right, well, it looks like the tides are turning for yoitsflo as long as he doesn't die to just surprise burst damage. And the damage count is definitely starting to even up a little bit. Warrior hero power definitely makes things reassuring here, which is something you don't really expect because you always think about how terrible usually the warrior hero power is for aggressive decks.
And Nostam, he is just going to the face.
I like it.
Use the weapon plus Heroic Strike. That adds up, leaves yoitsflo at just 9 life.
He needs 2 damage the next turn, or just to not die. And yoitsflo just picks up more weapon damage, so Nostam only needs 2 more damage to even up this series.
And yoitsflo now in a little bit of an awkward situation. Picks up a War Axe, just used the Rusty Hook. How much can he afford to try and maximize damage per card versus just the time? He doesn't really have lethal over 2 turns because Nostam still has quite a bit of health left to work with.
Yeah.
So I might expect him to just see him use the hero power here. and get in with the Rusty Hook, and then War Axe the next 2 turns to maximize that damage.
But does he think he had that
Gotta,
much
like, math it
time?
out.
I mean, Nostam passed with 10 mana.
It's true. It's
so,
true.
And he had 2 cards in hand.
Right.
So it makes you feel like he has to be holding, you know, a very powerful card that's explosive like Leroy Jenkins, because they don't even have Mortal Strikes in their deck. So it has to be almost Leroy. I think you can put it on that.
It could be Bash is another card that maybe makes some sense.
Oh yeah, you're right. Bash could be it too.
There might have been an opportunity to play Bash previously. That does not do damage right now.
Yeah, and yoitsflo has how much damage? 3, 4, plus the Fire War Axe is 6, 10, 11 damage.
War Axe upgrade Heroic Strike is 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, so still a little bit off. But it's like you said, now maybe you can use the Fiery War Axe to help get you through.
Yep, now War Axe plus upgrade means that he's getting significant chunks of damage rather than just the damage from the Rusty Hook. And this, I believe, may represent lethal next turn, along with the Heroic Strike, if he has any more damage. He's 6, 7, 11, so he'd have to actually do 3 more damage next turn, which is a tougher increment to make than 2.
Yeah, and you know what? If Nostam, there's a really weird balance here. If Nostam had chosen to play the Bloodsteel Cultist to maybe get damage or force damage off the board, or potentially force yoitsflo to use his own health, which is always a risky thing. But now he's just, I feel like he's just out of range. Finley's going to try to dig for damage here, but I think Nostam's going to be just off no matter what happens here, because he doesn't have enough mana to do everything.
This does give him an additional attack, which allows him to take down the Frothing Berserker, and the Shapeshift is a hero power that still gives him some amount of armor, so it gets him a little bit out of range. Buccaneer is not immediate damage, so we might be back to playing for the board.
Yeah, looks like it, and it's getting down to the nitty-gritty here. yoitsflo has 2 weapon charges, though, so that's pretty huge to allow him to control the state of the board. Because then this Buccaneer, this 1 mana 3/2, despite how late stage of it is in the game, is now the dominant force.
It's still a
damage.
very meaningful threat.
Yeah. And Nostam has just Leroy in his hand, which is sitting there forever. And I think yoitsflo, if he doesn't see Bash come out here, I think he can just decipher that's Leroy.
Yeah, and the Buccaneer, not as good for Nostam, since he may be able to attack, but it's with Shapeshift, which is not a weapon. So he's going to actually have to just trade into this minion, stop that repeated damage, and drop down a sad, sad Buccaneer.
Yeah, Buccaneer just easily gets destroyed here. Not enough game-ending damage, though, or is it? I think he might be 1 off.
8-9. He literally is 1 damage off lethal here for yoitsflo.
So close. And at the same time, it's not like yoitsflo is also at the safest amounts of health too, but at the same time, that warrior hero power actually still does matter. Remember, yoitsflo's been armoring up practically every turn, and without that, he'd be dead.
Frothing Berserker can give yoitsflo the ability to have a little bit more threat. He has to be thinking, okay, do I need to kill this Buccaneer here? Because it does take a lot of his burst away. He's able to increase the Frothing to a 3/4.
Right.
Sets himself to 13, which means no individual card. Looks like it kills him.
Oh, goodness.
Captain.
South Sea
Yeah,
Captain.
that's particularly bad here because it can just get eaten by the Frothing Berserker.
I think you might have to just Leroy into the Frothing Berserker just because of how threatening that thing is, and it's too much of a disaster to let it go. And now Nostam, but he also gave up potentially his game-winning damage in this decision.
It's important though that Nostam does have the Shapeshift, which allows him to remove one of these minions. So the Captain is at least the dominant minion on board. There's no way on board that yoitsflo can just get rid of it. But the South Sea Captain from yoitsflo, comes down immediately. Heroic Strike going to allow him to protect the rest of his board. And now this is that long attrition game. We were talking earlier. Some people say Pirate Warrior is just this blazing fast, throwing things at each other's faces. This is like several turns into 10 mana.
Yeah. I mean, this is quite possibly the latest, the longest Pirate Warrior mirror I've ever seen. And that upgrade is not going to really do it here. Looks like Nostam finally is going to tap out here. yoitsflo able to outlast his teammate and his friend here. So it looks like he's going to go up 2-0, 1 game away from being able to take the series.
Yeah, and this is a battle between two practice partners, very, very similar lineups, almost identical, and definitely a match that each of them really wants to win.
Yep, so that leaves yoitsflo with just a tempo mage left. And Tempo Mage has actually been doing decently well. You know, one of the problems with 4-deck lineups these days is that it's always difficult to find that fourth aggressive deck. But people started bringing Tempo Mage back in. I think it's performed relatively well, even though we did see it lose one game in the series. It's kind of a mirror lineup match, so you always have one of these things where one lineup does well and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, can't win it all.
Yeah. So let's go into the third game here and find out what happens. Because remember, oh, sorry, I apologize. We're going to check in with TJ and Annabelle first and see how they're doing. What's up, guys? You enjoying this?
Hey, guys. Yeah. This is a pretty good match. Of course, I've practiced with Nostam and yoitsflo a few times, so I know they're probably really sad to have to face off against each other in this round. But we got some updates, Admiral. We got some big ones here.
Yeah, some crazy stuff's been happening around. Firebat down to 1-2 at this point. He was just defeated by Roof Trellin. So kind of struggling in this tournament alone. But at 1-2, you know, he's got his sights set on the World Championships this year, not necessarily just this event. So he needs to close out his rounds and find himself a strong finish so he can pick up some extra points.
Yeah, if I'm Firebat, I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, grab me some lunch, remind myself that I'm a world champion, and then try and finish out 5-2. Hope I win tiebreakers, make it top 16, which gets you some Hearthstone Championship Tour points. Come back next season, try and make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, last call is still a very real thing. If he can secure himself #1 in points, he's going to need every opportunity he can possibly get. So even though his hopes of top 8 looking like they're out at this point, certainly worth finishing the tournament.
All right, well, that's pretty much all the updates we have from over here. We're going to let you guys, Dan and Kibler, get back into the Nostam versus yoitsflo game.
Will do.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. I'm trying to see if I can get an update on their actual scores right now. But just to kind of remind you guys that we're finishing up the rounds of Switzerland's round 3. We're going to go all the way to try to go through round 7 today and see if we can finish all those games. I did get an update, by the way, that Amnesiac has also won his most recent round 2 and round number 3, so he's a solid 3-0. And Dog played against Alan, and Alan you might not have heard of, but I heard a few players saying that he's actually a player that's been practicing a lot with them, some of these top players, and he was able to beat Dog 3-2. So that's another player that's 3-0. And it would be cool to see some of the new blood and be able to step in here and usually rise to the occasion, which is what HCT is about.
Yeah, we saw last year a lot of players make their name through the Hearthstone Championship Tour. Players like Dr. Hippie, George C., both of whom we saw play last weekend. Didn't work out for them this year, but we actually had another sort of crop of players. Shtanadachi, a player who's been on a lot of players' radars, but did finally have his breakthrough performance last week.
And his America's successor, Monsanto, is also doing okay so far. We'll check in with that later. But let's go into game number 3 here. We have Tempo Mage up against the Rogue here from Nostam. Now, this Rogue, it's on the coin. It's got a decent opening hand. Double Pillager is usually something that's never really bad for Rogue. At the same time, though, we got Mana Worm start for the Tempo Mage, grabbing board control, and looks like Nostam's going to have to use that coin early.
Yeah, the coin here for a SI agent does leave Nostam with a slightly awkward hand with those 2 Tomb Pillagers. yoitsflo, for his part, though, doesn't really have a great answer this turn. Probably just going to fire off this Arcane Intellect since the Acolyte of Pain would just die on board.
Gosh, I got notification that this is both a 1-1 score for Nostam and yoitsflo, so losing here is almost a certainty that you're not going to be able to go through. So it feels like an elimination match here. So Nostam really has to get this win, otherwise it's out for him.
All right, well, Barnes is going to be big. He picks up something powerful like... Oh! Something powerful off of Barnes like Emperor Thaurissan. That is an absolutely enormous potential tempo swing here. Allows yoitsflo to just start firing on all cylinders. Getting a Flame Waker discounted, only 1 spell. But there's a second one. We're going to see sparks start to fly here.
Only 1 spell, but imagine if you gotten 5 coins with it. It feels great to be able to do this
but
much.
These are actually some bad shots so far. Gonna need a nice one here. Yeah, that is perfect.
Wow.
Doesn't really care about taking out the Tomb Pillager because he has 2 mirror images to hide behind. And now it's Nostam who needs to find something.
He needs AoE, but
Ball Lackey, that is...
what is that going to do?
It's going to be a 2-1 that dies to a hero power. That's what it's going to do. But second Tomb Pillager is enough to make the board scary. A second Emperor Thaurissan. That's not something you see every day.
Yeah, a little, definitely excessive here.
Oh, that's an excellent draw once again.
Yeah.
The Azure Drake plus Arcane Blast.
And
can take out the big, Tomb Pillager. I think yoitsflo might be debating if he wants to clear out the 5/3, but by attacking into it.
Huh, wow.
Or,
he can use the
okay,
torch
now we
as
can actually
well.
just kill everything.
Yeah.
Arcane Blast takes that down, and the reduced cost Forgotten Torch can kill the other.
We'll just torch
This is just an absolutely monstrous lead from yoitsflo here. Already up 2 games in the series, and this situation is bad for any deck looking to come back, but aggro rogue, it does not play well from here. He needs to find like Flame Strike off this Swashbuckler. Okay.
That looks like a Cabal Chemist.
That Cabal Chemist can find
Dragonfire
Potion, but I think he's still looking for another Flame Strike here, because Dragonfire Potion might just be way too slow.
Right. Looks like he's also setting up for a big Van Cleef or potential.
Oh, a Babbling Book. He's got so many shots.
Flame Lance.
Finds a Flame Lance.
Just single target removal, not really enough here. And it looks like Nostam's gonna opt for the big Van Cleef, but will it matter? You know, one of the questions is, you know, what if yoitsflo gets so much damage in that the rogue was just threatened to die?
He finally found a Volcanic Potion, but after he'd played just about everything, and now, this turn gets passed over to yoitsflo with just a monster board. Can pick up even more cards with his Acolyte.
Absolutely brutal.
Oh, Antonitis. Just in case the game
Yeah,
weren't good enough for you already.
I don't think he casted enough damage spells this game, Brian, so we just gave him a Fireball and an Antonitis to top it all off.
Yeah, this is just an absolute mauling. Perfect shots from the Flamewaker. yoitsflo, he is just dominating this game and this match.
He's already dead, Flo. Oh, I mean, can't blame a guy for trying. He's gonna definitely load up as much as he can, but that's gonna wrap it up, and that spells the end of Nostam's run here in the Winter Playoffs for Americas. But yoitsflo's teammate and practice partner can live vicariously through him and be able to go through together in spirit.
Yeah, it's tough to play against a teammate, but at least you know that one of you's going to win the round.
Yeah.
But this early on, though, it's not even guaranteed that you're going to advance, but it's nice at least that one of them's still alive.
Yeah, and I guess if you had to lose to somebody in the tournament, at least you lose to somebody that you respect, you practice with. So at least there's a silver lining there, but definitely a little.
And this
bit
too,
of
I think, silver lining.
Silver lining.
Outer.
It's good. I try to be the positive side of everything, Brian.
You do.
That's why we make a good team. Well, we also got notice, by the way, that Strife Crow series is still going on here. It's very tight-knit and back and forth. And I think TJ and Annabelle has been following along the action here. So we're going to check in with them in just a second. But a lot of fun stuff's been happening all over. And I think one thing to pay attention to is just how diverse the field still actually is, despite the fact that we've been focusing on a lot of the aggro lineups here. I think a lot of people are still gravitating towards the lineup that Pavel's bringing, where it's very well-rounded, 2 Pirates, 2 Reno. And that also seems to be performing pretty well here, because you have guys like Teray still going through, and guys like Strife Crow right now who are currently doing well with that lineup.
Yeah, the field is kind of concentrated in some of the decks that have been popular for a while, but there are, sort of the Mavericks out there with their Control Warrior lineups that we've seen as well. So
It's true.
I want to see one of those on screen at least.
I think so. We got notification that Dude has managed to take down Talion, so 2 championship top 8 contenders did go head-to-head, and that was an advantage for Dude. And we got notification that Teray is now 3-0, so that might be 2 back-to-back eligible seasons where Teray can actually go to championship. He was in the summer finals where he lost to Hot Meowth. And then now maybe he's back here in Winters, even though he didn't get to go to BlizzCon last year. So that'd be another cool story for that. That'd be 3 years that Teray would be going to championship events, which would just be an amazing feat.
Yeah, seeing that kind of performance from players year after year, season after season, is really what is particularly impressive in Hearthstone.
All right, so looks like we're going to check in with TJ and Admirable.